The wind howled through the cracked buildings like a lost soul, sweeping dust and dried leaves across the cracked sidewalk. In the shadows of the underpass, where the city's glow dimmed into forgotten silence, a woman crouched beside a broken cart. Dana's fingers, red and raw from the cold, gripped the frayed edge of the blanket wrapped around her daughter. Her shoulders were tight with exhaustion. Her eyes scanned the sidewalk, not for opportunity, but for danger. She had learned long ago that out here, even in broad daylight, nothing was safe. Not for a woman, and definitely not for a child. Her daughter, Marley, nestled beside her, cheeks flushed pink from the bitter wind. Despite the cold, she hadn't complained. She never did. There was a quiet resilience in her, something born from watching her mother fight against the world without ever asking for help. She didn't have toys. She didn't know cartoons. But she knew stories, hundreds of them. Dana told her a new one every night, made up on the spot, usually about magical creatures who lived in gardens and protected little girls with golden hearts. It was the only way to help Marley sleep. Their shopping cart, once a sturdy, if makeshift, lifeline, was now twisted and broken. The front wheel had snapped when they tried to roll it over a pothole. Inside were all their possessions, 2 threadbare blankets, 3 cracked plastic containers, a thermos that no longer held heat, and Dana's journal. It wasn't just ink and paper, it was her mind's shelter, the one place where her words could cry without judgment. Dana hadn't eaten properly in 3 days, giving what scraps they had to Marley. The girl didn't know that, of course. Dana smiled when she handed over crusts of bread and said she wasn't hungry, just tired. It was the lie mothers told to protect the ones they loved. Marley never questioned it. She only smiled, tucked in close, and whispered, "You're my hero, Mommy." On that particular morning, the cold seemed to hit harder. They had slept sitting up, Dana cradling Marley, both wrapped in an old curtain someone had thrown out. The ache in Dana's back felt like knives between her ribs, but she didn't dare show it. She had learned long ago, never let Marley see her pain. People passed them as always. Most pretended not to see. Some clutched their bags tighter. A few looked with mild pity before quickening their steps. It didn't matter anymore. Dana had given up expecting kindness. Until Marley stood up. She did it so calmly, so suddenly, that Dana blinked as if waking from a trance. Her daughter walked 3 short steps away from the cart, her arms hugging her tiny body. A man in a black coat and dress shoes, coffee in one hand and a phone pressed to his ear, was just passing them. He hadn't looked down, hadn't slowed. And that's when Marley, in her quiet voice that always surprised people, said something that would shift the path of their lives. "We don't need food today, just a hug." Dana froze. Her throat closed. Her eyes widened in alarm. "Marley," she whispered, reaching forward, but it was too late. The man had stopped. He turned slowly, pulling the phone from his ear. He blinked, confused. Maybe even annoyed. But his eyes met Marley's, and something happened. The kind of silence that makes you forget everything else, the wind, the street, the weight of everything, fell between them. Dana scrambled to her feet. "I'm sorry, sir. She didn't mean to bother you. We're just..." But the man interrupted gently, crouching down so he was at eye level with Marley. "You sure?" he asked, his voice uncertain, like he hadn't used it for anything kind in a long time. Marley nodded. "Sometimes hugs make you full in a different way." Dana's heart clenched. She wanted to cry and laugh and scream all at once. She didn't know whether to apologize again or run away. Instead, the man dropped his phone in his coat pocket, set his coffee down on the sidewalk, and opened his arms. Marley stepped into the embrace. And Dana watched, silent, shaking, as her daughter found warmth not from food or shelter, but from a stranger who had stopped just long enough to feel. He held her for a long moment. No cameras. No grand gestures. Just arms around a little girl who reminded him, perhaps, of something he had forgotten. When he finally stood, his eyes were glassy. "She's something else," he said softly, then picked up his coffee and walked away. Dana stood there, stunned. She knelt beside Marley, wrapped her in her arms, and felt something shift deep inside her. A moment of grace. A flicker of warmth that hadn't come from the sun, but from a stranger's heart. The next morning, Dana sat huddled beneath the tattered awning of a closed bookstore, her knees pulled to her chest, trying to hide the tremble in her hands. The wind had been cruel overnight, and Marley had coughed herself to sleep beside her. Dana had used her own body as a shield, wrapping Marley like a cocoon, whispering stories of imaginary gardens where flowers bloomed even in the snow. But deep inside, Dana feared they wouldn't make it through another week. Every passing day chipped away at her spirit, one piece at a time. Kindness was rare. Hope even rarer. But somewhere, just a few miles across the city, that hug, the one her daughter had asked for so innocently, was echoing in the heart of a man who hadn't known he needed it. Nathan stared at the untouched coffee cup on his kitchen counter. Everything about his penthouse screamed wealth: polished wood floors, chrome appliances, floor-to-ceiling windows with skyline views. But everything was cold, sterile, like him. He had made his fortune building a tech empire. Once upon a time, that success had felt like meaning. Now it felt like a box he lived in, isolated and echoing. But last night, after hugging Marley, something had cracked. He hadn't cried in years, had prided himself on never showing weakness, but the minute he got home and shut the door, he had leaned against it and slid to the floor. The warmth of that little girl's arms, the sincerity in her voice, had haunted him. And her mother's eyes, God, those eyes, so tired, but still fierce. Still protective. He didn't go to the office that day. Instead, he dressed in simple clothes, stuffed his car with blankets, hot food, and a first aid kit, and drove back to the underpass where he'd seen them. But when he arrived, they were gone. His stomach dropped. He asked a food vendor nearby. The man shrugged and pointed vaguely down the street. The city came by last night. Cleared a bunch of them out. Don't know where they go. Some behind that diner sometimes. Nathan drove the next few hours in circles, through alleys, behind dumpsters, near shelters, checking every shadowed corner. And just when he thought he'd lost them forever, he turned into a narrow alley behind a rusted diner, and there they were. Dana sat cradling Marley on a piece of flattened cardboard, her body wrapped protectively around her daughter. Her lips were blue. Marley coughed again, soft but painful. And Nathan stopped breathing for a moment. He got out of the car and approached slowly. Dana looked up, startled. Her face twisted, not in anger, but in disbelief. "You came back," she whispered. He nodded, crouching down and offering a thermos of warm soup. "I couldn't stop thinking about you both. About that hug. It meant more than you know." Dana hesitated but took the thermos. Her hands shook. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," Nathan replied. "Let me help. Please." And for the first time in months, Dana let someone help. He took them to his car, blasting the heat. Marley curled up in the back seat, her small face finally relaxing in warmth. Dana held her hand the entire time, unsure if this was real. Nathan didn't take them to a shelter. He took them home. The warmth of his apartment overwhelmed Dana. It felt like another world. She almost couldn't step inside. She stood frozen at the threshold, ashamed of her clothes, her smell, the dirt under her nails. But Nathan, with no judgment, handed her a clean towel and said, "The bathroom is that way. Take your time." Dana cried in the shower. Hot water mixed with hot tears. She hadn't looked at herself in a mirror in weeks. The woman she saw was thinner, paler, but there was still something there, a glimmer of who she used to be. When she emerged wrapped in a robe, Nathan had already made Marley a bowl of soup and laid out soft pajamas from an unopened gift box in his closet. The next few days passed in quiet restoration. Nathan didn't press her with questions. He offered what she needed most: space. She began to open up slowly. She told him about the flower shop, about losing her husband, about how hard it had been to watch Marley sleep in alleyways while pretending it didn't break her. Nathan listened like no one else ever had. And one day, over coffee, he handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "It's the paperwork for a little flower stall I used to invest in, back when I thought side projects would fill the hole in my chest. I want you to run it." Dana shook her head, overwhelmed.